Oh, you're alive. Thank you. I almost missed that as I just begin the Facebook sharing, which you all know very well. Of course, you're all used to the routine. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. I've had a lovely Monday. I hope you've all had a lovely Monday too. I hope this finds you very, very well. It's going to be the last of these we do for a while, actually, isn't it? Because, of course, we've got the World Cup now. Norwich City are basically irrelevant for the next 4 weeks. As if that's ever true. So, yes, we're going to be talking about loads of stuff, obviously, as usual. I'm just getting this all shared, and I will continue to do it. Who have we got on tonight, Michael? I hear you all bellow at me along the internet lines of communication. Well, funny you should ask. And there you go, look. We've got Steve Sanders, who's been relegated to mere pundit this week after a brilliant job hosting. He's not been relegated. It's just I'm back. So, but you could have hosted when, yeah, we'll do that again. We'll do that again. And Steve has hosted before when I've been waffling on. But you don't want to hear much from me tonight, I'm sure. Ryan Livermore is here, quizmaster extraordinaire. Yeah, of course he's got a quiz. He's on the pod. Of course he's brought a quiz with him. And Sarah Greaves from the Canaries Trust makes up the Fab Four. There we go. She has not slept much, is what I'm reliably informed. So that will be exciting. Right, I'm going to share this on. That's a word, isn't it? Share this on the things. We're going to do the sharing. That's always the exciting bit. And while I do that, please do get in touch, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. Get in touch with us. Send your messages. Just sharing it to one of the Norwich City groups that's apparently now called Dean Smith Out. That's exciting. Sure they'll enjoy that. Yes, if you've got anything you wish to ask. My computer says it wants to find. I'm on a new laptop. I don't want you to do this now, but obviously none of you can see this message and it's right over everything I'm trying to do. So let's postpone in 2 days. Works for most things in life, I find. Yes. So what was I saying? Yes. If you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, please do get in touch. Ask your questions. Tell us your comments. It's been quite an eventful week since we were last on with interviews and AGMs and visits. And there was even some football, but only one football. So, yeah, please do get in touch. Ask us what you want, and we'll do our very best to answer things, obviously, with a factual, whether factually or indeed opinions. We are in the market for both. A slight word of warning. My wife is going to the cinema tonight. She's going to have a lovely evening, but it does mean it's me and my 2 boys who are both fast asleep. This podcast could be interrupted by children. So there's a degree of mild peril that only really happens by working from home. I've almost shared all this. I have shared all this. There we go. I think we appreciate that's the highlight of professionalism. That's a hard word to say. I think we're ready to go. Are you guys ready? Are you ready? Yeah, let's do it. Let's get on. As I said, if you're watching, get involved. Not so much on Twitter because I can't check the tweets. But if you're watching on Twitter and go, I do want to comment, then just get onto YouTube and then you can comment and question us there. If not, we'll crack on with our own agenda, which is also fine. There's loads of things on the agenda. I have spent precisely minutes putting it together. Let's crack on with the pod, shall we? Away we go. Steve's finished his lunch. He's just getting a massive... Is that the database in paper form, Steve? It looked like it. No one can see it. That is it's a notepad. You bring notes. I'm muting you. Sorry. No, I don't know what. Hang on. All right. We need to get going. But sorry, what are you saying, Steve?
Well, I clearly don't bring notes. These are my notes today.
Is it a blank pad?
Yes. I'm going to start making them right now as I go.
Go. You make your notes and we'll be ready by the time we start. Oh my gosh, I've unmuted someone during this opening rambly bit for the unprecedented scenes. Right. Anyway. Should we crack on? Yes, please, God, Michael, will you get on with it? Yep, absolutely. Here we go. Enjoy the podcast because it will be the last one for a few weeks. We'll see you on the other side. Let's go. Hello all and welcome to edition 119 of On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast that thought Attanasios was an Italian restaurant in Newton Flotman. I'm Michael Bailey, I cover the Canaries for The Athletic, and I hope this finds you safe and well. On the way, still borrowing, and holiday time. If you can work out what they are, well done. I'm not even sure. We'll work through all that and more with our guests this evening. They are Norwich numberwang chief at NCFC Numbers, also known as our very own Steve Sanders.
Hello, Michael.
We also have On the Ball's official random quizmaster generator. It is Ryan Livermore.
Good evening, everyone.
I don't know why I said lither rather than Livermore there, but there we go. It's more of a question for my education there. And finally, we have City fan and Canaries Trust board member. It's Sarah Greaves.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome to you all. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to everyone watching and listening to the podcast. Steve, great hosting job last week. Thank you so much for making my absence absolutely irrelevant.
Thank you. That wasn't my intention, and I'm not sure I did achieve that. But as you know, all I strive for in life is your affection. So to have that right at the very beginning of this pod means I've already achieved what I wanted to tonight. And hi to Ryan and Sarah, who I haven't had a chance to say hello to yet, because I literally came on eating my dinner. Well, I'm the reason we're late, really. Let's not beat around the bush. So apologies for the lateness. That's my fault, not Michael's this time. It's usually Michael's fault, mine tonight.
You're very kind. I think it was slightly my fault, but there we go. And it's always a pleasure to see you just eating. Really, Steve. It's always a good watch.
Well,
what did you eat?
Yeah, what was it?
I had pesto pasta and a fillet of fish, which I just bunged in the oven. You're welcome around any time if you just want to watch me eat my dinner. Bit weird, but you know.
It's a weird combo.
Yeah, where's this going?
I mean, hang on. I want to unpack this. So, as in like a McDonald's fillet of fish.
Sorry. I forget that's a thing, and it's a fish fillet.
A fish fillet. What? Battered, breaded.
Battered, yes.
Okay.
So like like a bird's eye, you stick it in the freezer. You like sorry, not battered. I mean breaded.
Breaded. Okay. Important detail. It's not one or the other.
What's going on?
Hang on.
This is a month's worth of nonsense that we're using up in the first 5 minutes here.
Exactly. Yeah. This is good. This podcast is going to be 4 hours long. I haven't told anyone yet, have I? What fish? I mean, is it like one of those? It's fish.
I think it's
from the water.
Just plain cod. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd maybe
it's still a weird combo.
It is a weird combo, but
I don't know about that. No, I think there's a. It's the sort of thing you'd have got from Attanasios in Newton Flotman. To be honest. Maybe. Are you well, Steve? I think that was the question.
I'm well fed. That's what I am.
Okay, well that'll do. What more does anyone want, for goodness sake? That's great. Ryan, how are you? I love your cap. Not obviously the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Listeners can't appreciate what is on the cap. Is it Jurassic Park cap?
It is.
Oh,
I'm a ranger officially. I'm not, but
what?
It's a lovely cap. It says I'm a ranger. Look, I'm a park ranger.
You're an official Jurassic Park.
I am. That's how it works.
Quite a lot to unpack here, Ryan. I mean, have you been?
Yes.
Excellent.
No, it's not real, Michael.
Oh, whatever. I've seen the films. I mean, I just thought they were documentaries. Well, I'm glad you're well. I'm already looking forward to the quiz. And nice to see you. You've also got, proper. Oh, no, so have you, Steve. You've both got, Apple iPod headphones with cables.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was. It does mean I should just buy a new pair, doesn't it, for my videos?
Yeah, definitely feel like I've been saying that for a while now.
Oh, yes, I'm definitely making it into a thing. Sarah, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us. How long have you been up for today?
I got up at 4:20.
Why?
Wow.
Why? Yeah, why? To take a child to school to get a coach for a school trip.
That's a
where
good
are they going?
Trip,
they've gone to the Somme for GCSE
Wow.
history for a couple of days. So big trip, important trip, worth getting up at 4:20 for. But I am quite delirious, so this could be quite fun.
This is going to be one hell of a podcast. We've got so much to get through. For those watching us live on your chosen social media platform, although not Twitter, because I can't read your tweets. We do also want to hear from you during the course of the podcast. It can be on absolutely anything. You can ask whatever you want, and we will do our best to answer and reflect and also share your comments. So do that on YouTube or Facebook. And if you want to contribute to that but are not listening live, that's fine too. All you need to do is email us with your story or your comment or your observation. And the email address for that is twitterkers@icloud.com. That is Twitter, KERS, @icloud.com. Although, of course, once Twitter completely implodes through Elon Musk, we might have to come up with a different Instagram. Oh, no, that doesn't work. Instacrackers. Anyway, I reckon we should talk about some football, because I'm sure that will be better than this. Onwards with our headline act. Yes, our headline act. It was all going so well, yet somehow Norwich did manage to lose to Middlesbrough at Carrow Road on Saturday. Dean Smith had said he wanted 4 points minimum from the 2 games leading up into the World Cup break. Norwich ended up with 3 points, of course, after the delirium of last weekend at Rotherham. Norwich are now 9 points off Championship leaders Burnley. They are also 9 points off Wigan, who are in 23rd place or 22nd. Either way, the relegation zone. Norwich are as close to the leaders as they are to the bottom 3. Obviously, I'm slightly glib with that observation, but by the same token, Steve, it was not supposed to be like this, was it?
I don't think it was, no. I mean, and normally it isn't, is it? We're normally the ones who are blazing a trail. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to think how Saturday could have gone much worse for Dean Smith, I think. And you said it in your intro, it was all going so well. On the pod
for 25 minutes.
For 25, well, and before that, right? Like on the pod last week, Callum was saying like this was a really optimistic podcast, and I think we all kind of were after that Rotherham game. So really dug in and got a good win, and they carried it over for the first 20-25 minutes. The crowd was great. The crowd was actually behind them. The football was really positive. The diamond seemed to be working. Ramsey and Sarah were linking up. Sargent took his goal really nicely. So how on earth did it unravel in the way it did? I'm still not really sure. I don't think the substitutions helped, although some of them were enforced. But the rot set in kind of before that, really. And I think it has to come down to a malaise in the squad. And that is something that you put down to bad coaching. And if it was a one-off, you would say, well, you know, maybe we'll be able to pick up again after the World Cup break. But unfortunately, it's not. We've seen it before when Norwich have started games well and just haven't been able to continue it. I think they started the game brilliantly on Saturday. Might have been the best 20 minutes they played all season, but the second half was some of the worst they've played all season. So I can't equate that. The goal, obviously, equalising goal was fantastic. No, you know, best goal they've conceded all season. Can't take anything away from that. And they, you know, on another day, they may have won it 1-0. But unfortunately, this is the Championship. And you can't put things down to chance like that because we know what happens. You get swallowed up by the pack. That's what's happening with Norwich City. And it's the case of, do they want to make a change over this month-long break we've got now? I'm sure we'll discuss it.
Got that question coming up, Steve.
Right.
It's very interesting because I did. I saw it. I saw a league table and it was completely wrong because about 2 of the assumptions I then said later on in my video about it were wrong, and I definitely seen them on the table. It wasn't. Sometimes I haven't checked or I've imagined things, but that what I've said today is accurate because I did check the table 3 or 4 times. But I remember getting to half time thinking this is a really good performance, even though Middlesbrough had their elements to it and caused Norwich issues at times. In actual fact, the penalty area was quite well protected. Norwich were playing with a bit of energy. They looked like they were running out of steam towards the end of the half. But Middlesbrough are a really good side. I really like them. I tipped them. Oh, I was going to mention this later, but it's too late. I tipped them as a dark horse for promotion at the start of the season, and then it just was rubbish. And obviously, Chris Wilder, I'm guessing, didn't really want to be there, and now he's not there, so it's not an issue. But I do think they're a good side. I thought they were moving the ball quite well, and they seem to come with a real tempo and focus. And obviously, they've got a lot of new manager bands at the moment as well. And I just cannot get my head around just how bad their motivation, Ryan, seemed to be in the second half. They literally, and you can say they were tired, but It wasn't that. They were just like, they were just stuck in a right. We're just going to block. And they just had no engagement in the game. And obviously everyone then just feeds off that. And you just then invite it on. I mean, Middlesbrough had a couple of opportunities before it where they could have caused some issues. And then they didn't. And obviously once the game is 1-1, they get a little bit more towards trying to make something happen for themselves. But it's sort of gone by that point. You've got to be much more proactive, especially if you're trying to do what you think you're going to do this season.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's been the same case. No, no, you're fine. The last 21 games, or however many league games, it's just 21, isn't it? There's been such a distinctive...
all 21 of them.
All 21. There's been such a distinctive lack of proactivity. And they start the game very, very well. And for 20, 25 minutes, as Steve said, they played the best football they've probably played all season. And then Middlesbrough were smart enough to sort of go, oh, that's how you're going to do it, is it? Okay, well, we'll counteract that. Now what are you going to do? And they sort of just have this weird moment where they contemplate it for 5 minutes and then go, we're just going to keep doing the same thing you've worked out for the next half an hour, and hopefully it'll get us over the line. And Middlesbrough, as you said, Michael, they forced Norwich higher up the pitch as the game went on. I thought they were really smart in their overloads in wide areas with Giles and Jones as well in particular. And you had Howson and, forgive me, who was centre mid with Howson on Saturday?
Was that Riley McGree?
Hayden Buckley as well, I think.
Oh, and Hayden Hackney as well, yeah.
Hackney, that was it. Yeah.
It was Hayden Hackney, yeah. McGree was playing higher up.
But so you had Howson and Hackney occupying McLean and Sarah, and that allowed them to double up in the wide areas. And the amount of balls they got into the box, particularly in the latter stages of that first half and the start of the second as well, you just knew what was coming, because Norwich just didn't seem to be able to deal with it in any way, shape or form. And that's part of the problem, is that there's no intelligence in when it comes to reacting to what the opposition is doing. And if you want to be finishing in the top 6 at the very least in this league, you cannot cruise your way through a game expecting that, oh, we'll ride this out, it's fine, because teams will find you out eventually. That's just the nature of the game these days. And lo and behold, Matt Crooks pops up in the 92nd minute, scoring a goal from those wide areas, which have been threatening the entire game. And yes, Luke McGree scores an absolute worldie. Like, it's genuinely one of those goals where if you're playing FIFA and someone scores it against you, you throw the controller down. Like, what can I do about that? Do you know what I mean? Like, it was that ridiculous of a goal. But everything, the lead up to it, was just utterly... It was so passive. And there was no, like you said, no urgency, no determination in there. And that's got to be down to the way it's set up, surely.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have defended the point that this idea of a full 90-minute performance, Sarah, I mean, I don't really agree with it, because a complete 90-minute performance, I mean, is very subjective. Like against Coventry, it was, because Coventry were rubbish and Norwich did exactly what they needed to do over 90 minutes. And you can control a game without sort of going full pelt for 90 minutes. I mean, again, obviously, you then thrash Huddersfield, say 2 seasons ago, 7-0, and people go, well, that was a complete 90-minute performance. Well, no, they just thrashed a team that were not up to it on the day. So it's maybe just that more of that control. But the lack of engagement, I think, is probably the thing for me on Saturday. I mean, I don't know how you viewed it while you were sitting there watching it.
Yeah, so I had a bit of a strange Saturday. I was looking forward to it, very optimistic after the pod last week, quite excited because I wasn't at Rotherham, thinking, wow, this is it. They're finally playing amazing football. What a game this is going to be. We got stuck on the A11. So we literally rocked up at the ground after that amazing 20 minutes was over.
Oh, it was your fault. What changed?
Yes.
You arrived.
We arrived. We literally parked the car, got out, heard the cheer, which we assumed was the goal, ran to the ground. And so I don't know if it was the best 20 minutes all season or not. I'm assuming it is, and I'm gutted I missed it. But the bit I saw just felt like every other game I've watched this season, right? Oh. And when things started to not go their way, or they weren't stopping the crosses, or they weren't first to the ball, they just didn't know what they wanted to do. There was no one taking control of that team on the pitch. The leadership, I think, within that group is lacking to start shouting at them and making them. You don't hear the players communicate, and the stadium's pretty quiet at the moment, so we would hear it, right? But there's no one sort of directing that play. You know, the sergeant said himself, it was like we just got passive and like we need to change. Well, yeah, we can all see that, but you haven't managed to change for the last however many games, Kurt. So I wish I'd have seen that 20 minutes because that might have made me feel jollier.
No,
but
I didn't know.
But I didn't, and I sort of feel where I was before the season started. I was fearful this year could be really hard going, that we weren't looking cohesive enough as a team in the Premier League, that we hadn't found our way, we didn't know our style of play, all that stuff everyone says. And I was fearful we'd be like mid-table mediocrity, maybe a bit lower. And, you know, I was pleasantly surprised, even though the performances weren't brilliant. But that's probably because everybody else isn't brilliant either, right? But it feels like we're a mid-table mediocrity type team at the moment.
You know what? There's a couple of points I want to come back to that you've mentioned. And
is it banning me from football now?
No, not at all. But you have kind of mentioned the point that I was going to come on to, so I'll try and come back to them if I can. But if you do look at the table, I mean, what I was going to ask, what everyone's expectations were right now as they look at it. I mean, it strikes me. I can't remember which game it was. I think it was before Burnley, and it might have been a few games before that. It might have been Preston, or it might have been Luton or Stoke, maybe even. It was one of those games where I was
into one, Michael.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I can't. It'll be on the video verdict, whichever one it is. I remember just coming out and saying, right, looking at this now, this team is going to finish. If it's going to do anything this year, it's going to finish between 3rd and 6th, and also might not finish in the top 6. But that is where I think now I don't see them finishing in the top 2, because or the target is to finish in the top 6, because that's what they look capable of. I mean, what strikes me is that Norwich played Rotherham, who are kind of all right, but you know they're going to finish in the bottom half of the table, and they had enough to win the game. They play Middlesbrough, who I think probably have it in them to finish above Norwich, but you know will finish in the top half of the table, I would say. And they lost to them. And actually, there is this recurring theme of them. You know, they win against teams who are much poorer than them. And it's like, yes, we've turned a corner. Well, or you've played someone who isn't as good. And then when you do, you lose because, you know, the more teams you play, the more you find your level in the division still.
Well, I think there is still something to be said for beating those teams. Like, Rotherham then went and won at Sheffield United on the following Tuesday, Wednesday. So you know, I don't think I think every game at this level, you know, I agree. It would be nice to be able to beat the top teams, but if you put away all the bottom teams, you're still gaining points, right? I know it's not as impressive, but it's still effective. What I would say is, had a little look. So we're 32 points from 21 games. Is that right?
Yes.
So and at the moment we're 4th. If you extrapolate that over the season, we will get 70 points. And over the last 20 seasons, that's only been enough to get in the playoffs 4 times.
Yeah.
It's
fifth,
also exactly
5th. Sorry, Steve.
Oh, sorry, we're 5th. Okay.
Yeah,
again, that's me carrying over the optimism from the last pod.
Dial it down, Steve. Less of that.
And it's all 70 points is also exactly what we got in the Alex Neil season before Daniel Farker when we finished 9th. So if you were to ask me, what do I think we're roughly going to get? That sort of feels like where we are under the current guys. And I think the other thing is, while I do agree there's a lack of leadership, and I think that kind of goes back to just the way that the squad is at the moment, that team had Ben Gibson, Grant Hanley, Kenny McLean, Max Aarons at right back. He's been promoted twice. Tamu Pukki, Angus Gunn in goal. I mean, you know, any team can throw away a lead, right? But you would think that there was the experience on the pitch to know how to deal with that situation. And again, the equalising goal is a complete worldie, which we might not see again for quite a long time. But I mean, the mentality is not there. It's just not there.
The goal itself is good. The lead up to the goal is really bad. And the lead up for 15 minutes before the goal was really bad. And I think the point about leadership, there's a couple of questions here, actually, if I can. Let's have a look. Nichols. Hey, Nichols. Need a strong voice on the pitch to lead them if If not, they all just stand there looking lost. Mark Hilton agrees, Sarah, lack of leadership. I've been arguing for 2 seasons now. Hanley is not a captain. Without the captaincy, he isn't worth starting over the days of Duncan Ford.
See, I don't agree. I think he's been, he was our captain when we got 97 points 2 years ago. Like, I mean,
yeah, but then what isn't working? Because something isn't working. That team, are they all thinking, a lot of us are out of contracts at the end of the season? It doesn't really matter what happens. Their heart isn't anymore because they've been through it twice already. They haven't got the desire or the hunger, because
could be that.
They are better than the collective sum of our parts at the moment. These are talented players who actually are individually good. One would still assume on the training pitch and maybe in the soccer bot, right? But somehow, maybe the soccer bot's to blame, I don't know. But somehow, when they get on that pitch, they have this burst of 10, 15 minutes. I've seen it at some of the games I've been at, not as good, obviously, as Saturday. And then they just sort of fall to pieces. It's like, oh, that wasn't in the game plan. That wasn't on the post-it note on the dressing room floor that they'd equalised. So what do we do now?
I think what I was just going to say that it struck me, there was one moment where Gabby Sarah put a ball across his own midfield and it set off, I think Ryan Giles had a shot at the end of it. And I looked at that and no one said anything. None of the Norwich players said anything. They didn't speak to each other. They all just sort of walked back for the next phase.
I think the bloke behind you said something.
Yeah, well, lots of people in the stand said things, but it's that element of no one really taking that sort of element of responsibility. And I do think there's this curious situation with Norwich where Dean Smith has said it a lot, and he actually took it to another level the other day, where he's like, the players get together before a game and they come up with the game plan together, and then we as coaches get involved in that. They are really, really doing this whole, the players are going to work together on what the tactical plan is for a game, and obviously the coaches are going to facilitate it, and it's up to them to solve problems on the pitch, but still the coaches will add to that, and obviously they're making decisions on the touchline too, like changes and personnel and where that direction is. So either it's not quite as straightforward as Dean Smith is making out, but if it is, I don't really see. It's very noble and great. And if the whole mentality of this season was we're developing a load of players, they didn't get it right, but that's okay, because the next time we get together to come up with a game plan, we'll be fine. Great. But that doesn't strike me as a way of going about promotion, because you've just got to go and win some games, and you've got to have that leadership. And if it is a team that is supposed to be solving all these issues, they have got to look like they are talking to each other and doing it themselves. I mean, at the moment, no one's doing anything from what I can tell in terms of on the pitch and dealing with it.
Yeah. And that game plan you talked about, where was it for that last 6 minutes of added time? A few seasons ago, we'd have seen 6 minutes go up and everyone would have been like, they are going to win, right? Mm-hmm. The 6 minutes went up and there was this collective sigh around the stadium of, now maybe Borough are going to go on and win. And then, they did. There was just like, to see 6 minutes where you're 1-1 and you need to win that game. What was the plan? Who the best, right? And
the other thing, and sorry, Ryan, I know you want to come in, is that letting the players take over is a huge departure from Daniel Farke's style of coaching, and they're not used to it. Sorry, Ryan.
No, that's completely it. And it just feels on and off the pitch at the moment that there's just this huge, overwhelming sense of apathy towards the whole thing, from the fans to the coaching staff. It feels like everyone just sort of turns up now because they have to. Like, the players are playing because they have to, and the coaching staff letting the players get on with it. And it's such a contrast to where we were 3-4 years ago when we started this next chapter in Norwich City's history, where we had a sporting director who came in with a philosophy and he got a coach to back up that philosophy, and they dictated, this culture that was about getting everyone on side and having an exciting, not just a team, but a club you believed in and you wanted to get involved with. And it was all about people who wanted to prove themselves and show that they were, worthy of representing this football club and taking it to the next stage. And now everyone sort of seems so indifferent. And there's, in my opinion, there's nothing worse in this industry than that kind of apathy, because at the very least, if things are going very badly, sometimes that can come full circle and sort of ignite a change. But at the moment, there's so much indifference at the moment. And you talk to fans who usually would be so excited to go to the game. Like I have a bunch of me and my mates who usually look for tickets every so often when our lifestyles allow it. But now it's just kind of like, oh, well, you know, if it's cheap, we might go along if they reduce the prices for a cup game or something. But there's no desire to get that. And that sounds really bad because I've you know, like so many people have supported this club for tens and tens of years, but I don't think it's not as bad as I've seen it before, but certainly the nosedive from where we were a few years ago, there's not been a downward trajectory like it in my lifetime supporting this club. And it's obviously such a shame to see, but it's just deflating and disheartening, and it makes you not want to really be associated with it. You know, it's such a shame.
I mean, sorry, Michael. The other thing is, I know you said we haven't. You know, how can you judge what a good 90-minute performance is? And you're right. You know, it's difficult to play well over 90 minutes. When have we had a single game this season where it's like, yeah, we really played well there. We really played well across the game. There was no spell. I don't think we have. Maybe Millwall at home, possibly Rotherham away, where they were a little bit fortunate not to concede in the first 15 minutes. I genuinely don't think there's been a good performance this season, and it's really difficult to get behind a team that's winning and not playing well. It's just instinctively you have this fear when you're going for promotion, it's not going to last. And I think I wasn't one of the people saying it's all going to go wrong, but a lot of people were, and they maybe proved to be right. Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
No, I think I had a lot of people at work sort of telling, you know, ask me, oh, you'll be all right again next year, won't you, though? And I'm like, honestly, I don't know. And I definitely wouldn't expect it. And so far, if I'm honest, we've had this season what I was expecting, which is a real shame, or what I was expecting. And that does feel a real shame, because I think there was a period, obviously, where they were unbeaten and at least picking up the results, where you looked at them and thought, yeah, these players have got it in them. And I think, like you say, Sarah, when you've got a group of players who are clearly very able, and they're not looking like more than the sum of their parts, that only ever comes down to the coaches who are putting them together and working it all out. And if they're delegating some of that responsibility to the players, that's fine. But that is still the responsibility of the coaches. Which leads me on to this question. Does anyone think Dean Smith won't be in charge come Swansea on December the 10th?
He'll still be here.
It's a double negative, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, he, in the greatest respect, he shouldn't be, but he will be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
don't get to answer that question because I've just asked it. So that's fine. A couple of
I'll
things.
ask you, what do you think, Michael?
We've got a couple of questions here from Stephen. I've already said I don't think he's going anywhere. Stephen Pummel, the mentality comes from the manager. So there we go. That's Stephen's view. The ones that we got here. I'll try and mop them up if I may. Joshua. Hello, Joshua Shreve. What concerns me at heart is at halfway stage of season, I don't think Dean Smith knows his best 11, preferred formation or style of play. If no change after break, I will be DS out. But not there yet. Well,
just while we're on that, we haven't even talked about like the substitutions on Saturday, which were diabolical. And I know that the Pookie thing his hand was forced slightly, so I will give him the benefit of the doubt there. And I can sort of see the logic in bringing on Hernandez because we were getting deeper and deeper and we needed somebody to kind of spring us on the break. But to change it, to then ditch the diamond, which again, I can sort of see the logic on because it was, as Ryan says, leaving us vulnerable on the flanks. But we went back to a formation that just hasn't worked this season. And then by the end of the game, it was literally, and again, I know not all of this was his fault. I think it was Hernandez, Cantwell, Nunez on the right for some reason.
Yeah.
And Hugill up front.
Yep.
And how has that come to be? How can we finish a game like that? We've got one of the best squads in the league. And you, I can't remember who left the comment, but they're right. Doesn't know his best 11, I don't think.
Can I ask a question? Why?
Yes, as long as it's not the other one before.
No. Well, Michael, no.
I did answer.
What do we? So, do we? Playing devil's advocate here, do we think Dean Smith does have a plan B per se? Because plan B just seems to be the exact same way of playing, but with people in slightly different positions they're not used to playing. You know, like when we went to 4-2-3-1 on Saturday, it just didn't look, like Steve said, any different whatsoever to the way we were playing before, or the control of the ball was still lacking, and it just looked as passive and, without sounding too harsh, as clueless as it did from the 25th minute onwards with the diamond. You know, I just wanted to know your guys' thoughts on that.
I mean, my quick answer is Plan B is throw on El Hernandez on and hope that something works out. Hope that one of his crosses hits the right player's head.
Who's in the right place? Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Plan B on Saturday didn't work. They just looked
No.
even more lost in a way after the changes were made.
I actually don't. There's obviously an issue with the coach with what this coaching setup is doing as a group of players and coaching staff. I feel like the biggest issue is a sense of responsibility for it. I feel like there's no players taking responsibility. There's a sort of a halfway house between who's coming up with what and who's doing what. And that team on the pitch looks like when it goes wrong, no one takes responsibility for it. And it's very hard for anyone to force the issue to get out of it. And it's just it's for me, it's more of a, I always think when a head coach has been in charge for a long period of time, the team and everything starts looking in their kind of looks like what they're creating, and that can be very disciplined and very creative or very charismatic, or the team sort of takes on a persona. And the persona at the moment is one where, everyone's sort of trying to figure stuff out, but no one's really coming up with any answers. And it's like, oh, we've hit a good bit. That's good. Oh, no, what's gone wrong now? I don't know. Can you sort it out? Oh, no, we've lost. Oh, we've drawn. Well, we've won. It's great. Are we doing all right? Does anyone know? I don't know. What are we trying to do? I don't know. I do. And I think that is not just on the football pitch culture, if I'm honest, but maybe that's one for another day.
Well, I mean, to identify the players who in this situation, the only ones really, if I can think back, that aren't here that were 2 years ago are Skip and Buendia. I may have missed some, but in terms of the players who are playing, obviously Krul's not been in the team, but he's kind of, I guess, been part of the issue this season. So that only really, an Emi, brilliant player, but I don't, he was probably one who needed controlling a bit more. And Skip was 2021, so I wouldn't have expected him to necessarily be leading in that sense. So that kind of only leaves me to draw one conclusion with what the issue is there, because we know these players have done it before.
And what was I going to say there? I can't remember what I was going to say there. Oh yes, so because and again, maybe a slight plug for my piece on The Athletic, which went up this morning from the game. But there was a really interesting quote. Chris Gorham asked Dean Smith, and I think we'll have another question on this later, I think, because we've got one in. But Dean Smith said he now has clarity on what he wants to see from his team after losing to Middlesbrough. He knows what he wants them to do. He wants them to be a different animal when they come back, which is obviously a fine thing to say. Yes, let's have a different animal when we come back at Swansea and then beyond. So Chris asked him, what is the biggest challenge to creating that different animal? And he said, it's the same problem as when I came in. We're not very good at winning the ball back sometimes. And to be honest, if you've been in charge for a year and the issue is the same that it was when you got here, then that's not a very good job of solving the issue, because the players are all different as well. And the only other point I wanted to make was that I feel a bit for Isaac Hayden, because I saw Isaac Hayden on 42 minutes. He was absolutely blowing. He was shattered. He should have been off it. And I hope that with him, he does get 4 weeks to really get in some additional fitness. Because for me, he's obviously been needs must, but he does clearly need
he really
get up to speed.
That piece of furniture they were describing him as last week. He looked like that on Saturday.
Oh no,
yeah,
I missed that bit. Let's carry on.
Just on Hayden quickly as well, considering the guy's at 60-70%, let's say, he's just a complete cut above everyone else in that team as well, isn't he, at that level? So imagine if he somehow gets up to a point where he can actually perform.
It's a positive.
There you go. We've got there. 38 minutes in, whatever it is.
So one of the positives.
Oh my gosh, yes.
No, come on, Steve. Steady on.
Apart from that pass that set up Ryan Giles, I thought Sarah was good.
Okay.
I thought.
Oh, absolutely.
And I thought he shouldn't have come off when he did. I thought he had maybe his best game for us so far. So
he's totally up to speed, getting the feel of the championship.
Yeah, 100%. So I used it as an example because it was the example that stuck in my head. But absolutely, I thought Sarah was excellent. On the whole, and I did it was in my things we're not going to talk about, actually, how well he did. And there's a piece on The Athletic off the back of the Rotherham game, which I have obviously watched in full because I'm relentless, and it's a lovely bit on why he is showing up much better, which I think he is. It's obviously just a hard one to sell off the back of a home defeat to Middlesbrough, which existed only for 20 good minutes of football. How about other things we are not going to talk about? Obviously, Josh Sargent. He's not injured.
Yeah.
He's going to the
Yay.
World Cup. So, I mean, that was quite fun. Sort of, oh no, the hush around Carrow Road when he was down was quite amusing, but not for Josh. But he's okay. He's already in Qatar. Qatar. I have no inclination to be able to pronounce it properly, to be honest. But there we go. So yeah, he's going to the World Cup with the USA, and they'll be playing England and Wales at some point.
Will he get on the pitch? I feel like he should.
Someone else asked me that in the mix zone. I think he'll definitely get on the pitch. I think it's questionable whether he'll start.
Yeah.
He did start against Japan, and that was a pretty bad defeat for them. So I guess it'll depend. Greg Berthaler, if that's how you pronounce his name.
Berhalter?
Berhalter. Yeah, Berhalter. That's it. The T. I
Berhalter.
keep writing it wrong because the T is not in the place I think it is. Berhalter. Greg Berhalter. Yes. He. What did he do? He said. I remember now. He said. But there's an interview with Josh Sargent on the Athletic. Read that. It's lovely.
Another plug.
Another plug.
know, it's
3 in 3 minutes. It's like I've just scored
The
3
hat
in 3
trick.
3 in 3 minutes, and I'm still going to lose 4-3 by the end of this pod. Yes, Greg Berhalter said something interesting, which when he was sort of, why Josh? Why have you gone with Josh? And he said, well, he plays in England a lot, so he obviously knows all about England, and we're going to come up against them. And I just thought, wouldn't have been the answer I'd have been hoping for. I'd have been like, his hold up play been really good. He's looked really sharp this season. And also he might know some of the players. So I just desperately hope he's not gone, because he's knows he can tip them off on some of the dark arts of England's top players from last season's Premier League experiences. But I am hopeful he'll get on the pitch. So yeah.
He did also say Greg Berhalter said bro a lot in that video. So Josh Sargent, I'm not sure how I feel about managers of football teams saying bro. Just doesn't sit right for me somehow.
What would you do if Dean Smith said bro?
Sack him.
The build up to
He's
Swansea.
gone. He's gone. That's the last straw for me.
Okay. Well, at least we know what it is now, so that's good. Anything else anyone doesn't want to talk about?
Oh,
Go on,
I don't want to talk about the AGM. As it's
Agreed.
as it's otherwise known, the absolute gigantic mess of a statement the club released on the website, of which sort of told us who was there, the topics of which were spoken about, but that was it, really. No one else can know what happened there, and I guess we'll never know. Pandora's box. Better not open it.
Perfectly transparent to all the shareholders who were present, Ryan. I'm surprised that you are requiring more than that. But there you go.
Okay, can I just? I think. Sorry, I feel like this has gone the other way now, but I think it's absolutely pathetic. To be quite frank, from the club, absolutely pathetic. These do not reflect the views of anyone other than myself, but I just think, just as somebody that works in that industry, you work with the media, and I think it shows a complete arrogance to think that you're bigger than that, and that's all.
Yeah, I would like to clarify as well that my absolute gigantic mess comment is my comment as well, not the views of anyone else. Just so we can keep that in this little box here.
The way everything's going, I'll get blamed for it all anyway.
No, completely. What I think.
I should keep entire control of this podcast, and I obviously on the thinnest of ice anyway for all the masses of things I've done wrong. But all I did want to say at the I was at the AGM. I am going to say I was at the AGM. I got a shareholder proxy. No media was allowed to attend. I was not allowed in as a journalist. So in my view, I thought it was very important that I got to hear what was said in the context that it was said in. So I managed to arrange for a proxy to go as a shareholder proxy, which is good. I didn't actually vote on anything because I wasn't required to. I didn't need to. So it was good to fill in to listen to how things were discussed. I didn't come away from it with anything particularly insightful. I thought there was a really nice answer to a question where Tom Smith talked about why the club flies the pride flag above the city stand. It was a brilliant answer. It deserved to be made public. I'm surprised the club haven't made it public yet, and maybe they will at some point, because that's exactly the sort of thing that they should be saying. And the only other thing I probably want to say is that there seemed to be a bit of confusion over whether head coach. They were asked. The top table were asked about whether head coaches. Why Dean Smith wasn't at the AGM effectively, because head coaches are usually there. And then I think there was a bit of confusion because someone said that there had been no head coaches at Carrow Road at the AGM since Stuart Webber had been sporting director, to which the room went, well, that's not true. And then someone else stood up and said, well, no, Daniel Farker was at the first one under Stuart Webber, to which people sort of went, So I've checked it out because, I feel like scrutiny and accountability and potentially accuracy can be quite useful traits. So just so we all know, and everyone does pay attention to this, Daniel Farker was at the AGM in 2017. He was also at the AGM in 2018, and he was also at the AGM in 2019. The 2020 AGM was on because of COVID, it was online. So there was no Daniel Farker at that one. He may have actually been in Germany at the time, to be honest, back home, I'm not sure. But he wasn't at that, I believe. And then we've had two since where Dean Smith has not been at the AGM, which I guess is because they don't want the head coach there. And to be honest, shareholder meeting, talking about all sorts of issues, you don't necessarily have to have the head coach there. I would actually believe that if you've got a sporting director who can address the football questions, then that is probably sensible. We do have a slightly different model at the football club now. So just so no one's rewriting history, that is the facts of the matter. I've already said too much. Norwich City women.
Yes,
I'm not the second round of the FA Cup.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the women's team and the club finally signing up to her game too.
Oh, November 2022. We got there in the end.
Very long process, but it's great
Good
that the club have finally signed. I think good 6 months or so after Ipswich, if not longer. But
I'm sure there's a really good reason for it, Sarah. And one day the club will share it with everyone.
We got there in the end. And the women's team, they are just having a stunning season.
Yes.
Over 200 at the Nest on Sunday, which isn't their biggest crowd of the season, but it's still good compared to last season. So, I think their biggest this season has been 400 odd. Through to the next round at home on the 27th of November against Sutton Coldfield Town. And exclusive news for the guys on the Ball podcast and listeners.
We finally got an exclusive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not
go on.
Get too
Let's pick it up.
The Canaries.
That's the only exclusive we've ever had. I'm so excited.
I feel like it's just going to be
except for what I had for dinner. That was an exclusive.
The Canaries Trust, along with Along Come Norwich, have secured funding from Fans for Diversity, which is part of the Football Supporters Association, and we're going to be running a free coach to the Nest on the 27th, with pickup at Carrow Road, dropping people off at the Nest, and then taking them back to Carrow Road at the end of the game. The adverts for the sign-up should go live tomorrow once we know the kickoff time. So if people are interested and want to come and watch the women's team in the next round of the FA Cup, then please sign up. You still have to buy your tickets, but the coach transportation will be free because we know the Nest is in a bit of a funny spot. If you haven't got a car, there's no bus stop. It can be quite tricky to get to. So we really hope that people go along and see what it's all about. Go support the women's team.
That is fantastic. I'll definitely do that. And I would have liked to have gone. I don't think I'm around. I think I'm in London. It's World Cup, isn't it?
You're in Qatar.
I'm not in Q, but that's brilliant. Definitely, everyone. Well, exclusive news here on the Ball podcast. Clip this out, everyone. Get involved and get to see the women play in the second round. That will be. Is it the second round of the FA Cup? That is the second round.
Yeah. So if they get through to the next round, that's when the championship teams join, and the round after is when the Women's Super League join.
Woof! Imagine that.
You'd have to get them at Carrow Road for that one.
You'd like to think that will happen at some point. When the women's team can be trusted with the atmosphere that will await them at Carrow Road, which was, I think, one of the concerns as to why they haven't played there yet. But no, hopefully the women's team will be able to be trusted with that atmosphere and will play at Carrow Road. For the record, they're not my words. I think it's ridiculous, and the sooner they play at Carrow Road, the better. So I hope
Yeah.
that gets sorted out.
Agree.
Gosh, I've gone rogue, haven't I? The last 15 minutes.
You were doing
Anything
well.
anyone else doesn't want to talk about?
I don't want to talk about Madders getting in the World Cup squad. I still think we can have a bit of ownership for him. Joins.
Probably get some money for it, to be honest, if he plays. Imagine.
Will we? Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh,
I don't
that'd be nice.
know. Don't ask me. Ask the club. They'll know.
Oh, new defensive midfielder. Yeah. Him and Harry Kane can have chats about how great their time at Norwich City was and in Qatar, can't they? But no, absolutely. I didn't actually think necessarily that he should have gone. But then when I saw his name in the 26, I was like, yeah, absolutely delighted for the guy.
I definitely did. And I still think Ivan Toney should have done as Tifo.
You would say that, wouldn't you?
No, but I've done the video all 10 minutes. It's like, it's an absolute open shut case.
Well,
I can't work out why. I feel like it wasn't even between him and Callum Wilson. I feel like they both could have gone.
Him
Do
and
they
Harry
do
Kane?
different things?
Between those two.
No.
That's what you say. If they lose on a penalty shootout, then you can wheel that video back out.
Yes. It was not just the penalty, Steve. There was another 10 minutes before that.
Okay.
Yes, that's great. I mean, there was a bit of a worry, obviously, over James Maddison's injury because the tweets were popping through. But I feel like I know James a little bit. And I imagine there's a bit of him going, I've scored here. We're doing all right. I'll be all right. And it was because they won 2-0. Everything was fine. Well done, James. I'm so chuffed for him. He's a great lad in so many ways. So, and a very, very good footballer. I really hope he gets to come on and show it because that's the next part of the dynamic. Anything else we don't want to talk about? There's a lot there we shouldn't have talked about.
Just a quick one. Why were the Middlesbrough goal scorers so exercised by like the family infill between the NMP and the South End?
We sit right there. It must have been us,
There was a lot of like, come on, as if maybe it was you. So maybe they saw you walking in 20 minutes late and were like,
exactly.
Do they not love the borough? I don't know. I just didn't get it.
Oh, I love it. Okay, well, I think that's probably enough of all that stuff. We've got a few other messages there, so I'll come back to those in a minute. Make sure. Yeah. What else we got? Norwich City introducing the Winter World Cup musical. Anyone can play Qatar.
Boom.
Is that a Radiohead reference, or is it a wider song of?
Not one that I know, but
I thought that
could
was a
be.
Radiohead influence, but maybe it's something else as well. What else have we got? Neil Austin. Oh no, did I say this on the podcast or on the blurb before? I think it was the blurb before, wasn't it? Because for those listening on the podcast, my wife has gone out tonight to the cinema, and I have 2 young boys who are asleep, but they could just interrupt the podcast at any time. And Neil Austin asks, important question, what is Mrs. B's choice of film? Well, tonight I believe she's going to see Black Panther 2. Is that the official term the kids use? Wakanda Forever? Is that it? We were watching Black Panther 1. Is that the right term? Last night, Sunday night. For the first time, just to make sure she'd seen that one before she went off to cinema. So there you go. Any insight into
Any good film references for this season? I can only think of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That's literally all I've got for you. But if answers in the comments, please, for appropriate films to have watched.
Oh, great work, Steve. Yes, the appropriate film to watch over the World Cup break if you don't like World Cup football, or maybe you're boycotting Qatar.
Or just to sum up this season generally. Titanic?
Sum up this season. Oh, wow. Nice. Steve, sorry. Get us banned. Canary Jedi. Love Michael Bailey. If he was in Star Wars, he would be C-3PO for sure. That's really bad? Is that rude?
No, that's
good.
No.
Wasn't he?
No, that's really. I didn't like. He's so whiny. C-3PO. I mean, does anyone like C-3PO? If you were going to go through all the characters in Star Wars, is that the one you'd want about? It's not.
Does that make me R2D2? That would make a lot more sense. That random whistling.
I'm going to have some fun on Photoshop later.
You've got the. You send me that poster, Ryan. That's a proper question. Spoon meat, breaded fish or pasta? Question mark. Oh yeah, that's from earlier for your dinner.
There
we go.
I can't remember I'm not taking food tips off someone whose name is Spoon Meat.
That could be
There's all sorts of
tomorrow.
problems with that username. Yeah,
Well, let's just not have an explanation, please. To make this not about football, let's carry on. Ted Silwood, Michael, where's your Pink Floyd poster? Great question. It's just round the corridor, but it is still definitely up in my house, which obviously only means something to people who are in my house. But there you go. Pink Floyd poster still exists. And Norwich City's been back in with a good one, and this is a good one. Maybe you could get some answers before the end of the podcast. Anyone can think about it. DS, that's Dean Smith, said that we need to be a different animal after the break. Please suggest your preferred animal. So which different animal do we want Norwich to be?
Can we be a hibernating bear so we just stay inside until the spring?
I think we'll be out of the playoff picture by then. That's the problem.
It's
not going to be very useful. I don't want to see that animal.
I think we've started that hibernation already, haven't we? Are there any animals that eat swans on the basis that we've got Swansea at the first game after the break?
They belong to the king.
The animal kingdom doesn't abide by any rules, though, Sarah, right? I just don't know if there are like
fox, an urban fox. That would.
It's got to be. Yeah. It's got to be about more than one game, Steve. That's the thing. I mean, what happens?
One game at a time, Michael.
It's like,
one game at a time.
It's got to be something more robust.
Yeah,
a big old grizzly bear, Tyrannosaurus Rex in honor of Velociraptors in honor of Ryan's cat. A whole swarm, flock, herd, school, group, pack, flight of Velociraptors. This is the most fun I've ever had doing the podcast. Let's crack on with the next section, which, if I recall, is a bit of Super John.
This is almost fantasy football.
Oh yes, isn't all football fantasy? Hey, isn't it? Thanks, John. So we've got no real football to talk about, although I haven't decided yet whether the next podcast is going to be before Swansea or after. It's a bit of a difficult. So we could sort of tee up Swansea, but we've also got a World Cup, obviously. So what are we all doing for the World Cup? Anyone doing something fun? Anyone? Or are we just off for 4 weeks in a living room waiting for Christmas? Anyone? Ryan, what are you doing? Will you be watching?
I will watch some of the games from the corner of my eye, but I'm not as invested in this World Cup as I am other ones for obvious reasons. Not to put a dampener on the whole thing, of course. Yeah. But
yeah. I have yes, it's for the first time in a long time, my wife asked me, like, what are your thoughts on it? She doesn't normally ask me any thoughts on football. She doesn't care, and that's really grounding because football can be very consuming. So it's lovely that no one cares in this house. And she was like, what are your thoughts about the World Cup? And I think my thoughts were, it's one thing getting into the politics of who should go to a tournament and, should Russia be going? Are they banned? Should Ukraine go, but Iran not go because of all that? That's a very different political argument. But to obviously give a World Cup to a country where football isn't for everyone, life kind of isn't for everyone, is a bit rank. And I can completely understand. Now, I think as a sporting event, and, I saw Gary Neville kind of getting a bit beaten up for this. And, Ian on Have I Got News for You? And Ian Hislop was asking him a fair set of questions. And that's right. And Ian Hislop hates football. So it's probably fair enough that he just does. I do believe there is a sporting entity of the Football World Cup that is brilliant and brings so many people together. And actually, if I do stuff with the World Cup as a journalist and as someone in the media who wants to cover it because I love football and it's just the best football jamboree for every 4 years. But I can sit there and say that the amount of people who died building the stadiums is a disgrace and that something should change because no country should operate like that. Or if I say that if someone is homosexual or trans or whichever and they're not comfortable or safe in a country, that's a disgrace. I will say that as well. And that they're the things that I would want to highlight and I would hope get highlighted. It might not change anything because with any country you're dealing with a completely separate set of rules. It's and cultures, and it's incredibly complex. But that's just my view. I'm tolerant, and I want to see the best of everyone involved in anything. And FIFA say football is for everyone, and they've picked a country for the World Cup where it isn't, and I think that's disgraceful. Yeah. So I will just try and share both views as much as I can. And I didn't quite say that to my wife, but I wish I had because it was quite eloquent. Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Qatar will be signing up to her game too anytime soon, right?
Oh my God.
You just sort of
I'm
think,
not even sure it's funny.
you know, of all the progress that's been made in this country, and even there's still work to do around discrimination at grounds over sexism and racism and homophobia. You just think that there has been progress, and football is a welcoming place pretty much for everyone. Yes, there's still work to do, but Qatar is not. You know, if I was there, could I even go to a game on my own without a male relative with me? I'm not sure I could. I checked the rules and the guidelines. I couldn't be walking around and just go and watch a football match, and that doesn't feel to me like that is where a World Cup should be taking place. Yes, I will watch the games. Yes, we've got our wall chart up because the kids are interested. They're picking who's going to win which groups and who's going to get through. But is my heart in it in the way it has been in other World Cups? No, it is not.
I mean, you've already touched on it, Michael, but obviously it being given to Qatar is directly contradictory to FIFA's code of ethics, which, as you say, states that football is for everyone, and it's a country that does not allow people who are LGBTQ plus, and like that in and of itself is a total joke. The fact it's had to be moved to November is, you know, that on its own would be ridiculous, but it's the human rights side of it that is most disgusting. And of all the things that we've actually got angry about, annoyed about today, this is the one, you know, this is the thing that really matters, because this is people's lives we're talking about. And no, if I'm totally honest, I won't be going as far as Hodgie said he would last week. I will be watching the games. And I think it's ridiculous that we have to be making that moral choice as people who enjoy the game of football. But yeah, it's incredibly sad. We're not going to change anything talking about it on this podcast, but you know,
but I just hope the players continue to state what they believe in and wear the rainbow captain armband and do the things that they can to show that they are aware of the issues and they're representing all of their fans.
But FIFA have said get on with the football, so
everyone get on with the football. That's
just get on with it. Can we not just play football now?
Well, I tell you what, I mean,
rainbow kits, why not?
Yes, quite. In terms of the football, are we looking forward to seeing anyone? Obviously, Josh, but anyone else? Yeah. Any countries? I've got my wall chart up here.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of countries on that. Yeah. Anyone interesting?
England.
Not really looking forward to that one. No.
Wales, Brazil. Brazil, always fun.
They're always good. Like to see what Ecuador
Germany.
Now that might be quite an interesting team.
No, Emi Buendia in the Argentina squad. I think Argentina might be good. Lionel Messi win a World Cup, then he'll actually be good.
I wonder what Ronaldo will be up to in that Portuguese team now after his.
Hopefully, doing daily interviews. That would be good. Am I still a United player? No. Oh.
Is Shemi Huerta still? Did he make the Poland squad? I know he was there not that long ago.
It's a great question. I haven't checked. I haven't seen it, which definitely makes me think no. I mean, he's been injured, hasn't he? Most of the season, I think. So I would be surprised.
It will be. Well, I remember it will be very good to see Eriksen back on the pitch for Denmark.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That could be the highlight.
There is definitely Robert Lewandowski.
Yes, he is in there.
Bielik, but
Shemi is not in there.
Przemysław Płacheta, which is still a name I love saying. And a bit like, Jakob Sørensen, who I haven't had the chance to say
very good. Recently. Maddie would be proud of you.
And Khvicha Kvaratskhelia is my favorite name to say because I've been practicing that a lot. And he's the wonderful Napoli player that I got to look into as well. Anyway, cool. Yeah, well, that's the World Cup. That's going to be. It's going to be. So I think we've covered that.
So we're going to definitive guide.
We're going to sort of watch some football, and we're going to do it through sort of like, I've got to sort of half keep an eye, a little bit of athletic background noise here. I've got to sort of keep an eye on Cameroon.
Oh,
are they your team? Are they your assigned team?
No, if something happens, I kind of need to be across it.
How many Cameroonian players?
From my study in Norwich. So wish me luck. I'm sure it'll be fine.
I've predicted they'll get out of their group, so let's see.
Well, it's interesting you say that because their group is, I should definitely know this off the top of my head. They are actually,
Brazil.
Cameroon are actually not in Brazil's group, but it was a good guess, Steve, because Cameroon are actually in, I can't find them on my wall.
I think they're with Brazil.
Where
Brazil,
are
Serbia,
they?
Brazil,
Oh,
Serbia,
Group
Switzerland.
G, Group G. Group G. I've gone all partridge. They're in Group G with Switzerland, Brazil. Oh, they are in Brazil's group. Oh, God.
And Serbia.
They're playing Brazil. Cameroon are playing Brazil. That's a good game. I look forward to watching that. I didn't
Your
realise
Cameroon
that.
correspondent here.
Well, apparently Cameroon.
Let's hope they go out early.
Cameroon are playing Switzerland, Brazil, and Serbia. Who knew? That's going to be great.
Wow. Who would have
Yeah.
thought?
Good luck to them, I say. Look forward to following that and all the news.
Are you sort of secretly
It's-
hoping they go
hopefully
out
no
early?
one I know is watching this at work.
Are you hoping they
one's
go
in-
out early so you get a bit of a break?
Well, I
It's good
mean,
that happens, isn't it?
African sides, I don't think they've done so well at recent World Cups, have they? And there's obviously the question of whether they'll ever get to a final or because they've been in the semis once or twice, I think.
That
I'm
would
sure
be a
they
good.
have.
that would be a
I'm
good
now
thing to
stating
happen.
facts I don't know are true.
I'm not sure they ever have. That would be a good thing to happen this year, I think, if an African team were to get
Brilliant
to a
fact
semi-final.
about Cameroon's manager yesterday in the comments that he struggled to pronounce his players' names apparently yesterday in the press conference.
Fantastic. Rigobert song. I know that. I think, to be fair, it depends how. I mean, Switzerland have got a few fitness issues. I'm now trying to sound like I do know what I'm talking
I
about.
think they'll come second. They've got a chance.
Yeah, no, I think they've got. I would agree. I think they should finish above Serbia, and Switzerland have got some fitness issues. So, yeah, I think they've got a really good chance of qualifying.
Brian and Burma is from Cameroon, apparently.
Yes, I did know that. Yes, Brian and Burma is on the squad.
Do you need us to send you facts?
No, it's fine. I've got loads of them, but I'm trying to save them for later.
Oh,
Well, that's the World Cup. Hope you all enjoy that. Should be great. Don't go to Qatar. Right, and then of course Norwich come back. Now they come back after the group stages, I think, if I've got that right.
Quarter-final day.
Is it quarter-final day? And by all accounts, these games are not getting moved. It's just the championship just starts. So off we all go. Where Norwich will be reunited with Russell Martin at Swansea. I mean, I know how I felt about Norwich going to Vincent Kompany's all lovely, passing the ball wonderfully, Burnley, and exactly what that was going to look like for 90 minutes. I have exactly the same feelings going to Swansea. Norwich might win, but the whole premise of what the game will be is just very obvious. We're all looking forward to it. Yeah, everyone. Yeah.
Be nice to see Russ again. I mean, we might be reunited with him sooner than that. You never know.
Oh, Lord.
I think that's wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't forget the
maybe we do
question.
know, really.
We need the different animal for Norwich to come back as.
And kill the swans.
To kill the swans, but also
Kill them swans.
with something more, a bit more longevity as well.
Joshua Shreve has said mythical, but a phoenix. Quite
Oh,
like
who
that.
has? Who has?
Ooh,
Joshua
well done.
Shreve.
rising from the
Oh,
ashes. I
sorry.
like
Oh,
that.
yeah, I forgot you can put comments up, Steve. Sorry, I just took it down. Yes, thanks. You do that job. Why am I even doing it? Go.
I kept
Brilliant.
quiet until now. Yeah, Phoenix from the Flames. That kind of works, doesn't it?
Yeah, that'd be good.
I have no idea how that's going to go. I have said this before, but it's literally at the same time if England win their group and get to the quarterfinals as England's quarterfinal. So given the choice, this is probably a question for Ryan and Sarah, seeing as you'll probably have to work it, Michael. Which would you be watching? Let's say England play, I don't know, France in the quarterfinal, and Norwich are playing at Swansea. You can only watch one.
Oh, I might just go for a nap and wake up, and whatever happens, happens.
I might
It's not
go
a lot of
watch
enthusiasm
an
was
under
hoping
11s game or something.
Sounds good.
Okay, I feel like I've asked the wrong two people that question.
I mean, I guess if England can play on that day, then presumably so can Wales.
Also true.
Ooh.
Yes.
So,
Maybe I'll watch that one.
I mean, I find it weird that the game wouldn't possibly be moved, but I guess they've all decided that that's just not going to happen. So there we go. Robert Marsh says Josh to get a hat trick against England. So there we go. That would be something. I tell you what, that would be. That would be a sale in January. No, in fact, that is what that would be.
That would be something to put a bet on.
Yes, quite. Okay, so yeah, that's all good. I have no idea if we'll come back before. We've been going a long time. This is a long podcast, isn't it? What else have we got? Wow, Josh just said Conor Gallagher wasted selection. Why not take Tony? Yeah, that was maybe one that surprised me that Conor Gallagher was going. But there we go. We got some good film suggestions here. A Bridge Too Far.
Nice.
Could sum up most of the season so far. Robert Marsh again. Mission Impossible. Oh. So that's good. I think they're the only ones we've got maybe out of there. And I'm just checking through the messages. I think we're okay. There may be one or two more that we'll run through. Let's do that. But in the meantime, I reckon we move on to Kenny Other Business. Kenny's out of contract in the summer, so maybe we'll need a new pun. I mean, that would be the second, because it was Emmy Other Business before, then Kenny Other Business. So this pun is going to become something of a poison chalice if Kenny does leave. But maybe Kenny won't leave.
On the Bamadeli Other Business.
Bamadeli Other Business. That's easy for you to say. I think our primary Any Other Business tonight is your quiz, Ryan. It's time for everybody.
Hello.
Sit down. I know you've been going a long time, but this is the last podcast for 3 weeks. So
exactly.
It is time for Ryan's quiz.
Thank you very much.
Ryan Livermore.
Thank you very much. This is a game I call What Do You Mean, Ass Cummingham?
Oh.
It's going to be
it's already a strong start.
It's gone. Should we just end there? Let's
goodbye.
That's not your mum again, is it? I'm sure one of them was an impression of your mum previously.
Every single. I swear my mum has called up Canary Call more times than I would like to admit at some point. But this is going to be a fastest finger first quiz, and the premise is very simple. I'm going to read you 3 facts, one at a time, about a Norwich City player, current or previous, who has had a World Cup call up at some point. You have to guess who it is. Now you can shout out your answer as soon as the first fact has been read if you're confident, but if you get the answer wrong, you'll be then frozen out, leaving the other competitors with a chance to steal. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to be last.
Don't let me go first. I need to see it in action.
Okay, so the first fact. Okay.
Steve's going to win.
Yeah, okay. Steve will win.
So, fact number 1. I made my professional debut against my first club's local rival, winning man of the match.
Oh, I know that.
Do you want to buzz in?
Green.
Correct. Well done. Green. That's 1 point to Michael. My goodness me. Okay.
Draw against Ipswich. I was there.
Carry on. Absolutely. I'm gutted we didn't get to the end because his last clue was I'm often now asked to display my wonky finger, which I wanted to get to. But
you've said it now, Ryan, so that's good.
There we go. Okay. Next player. I managed a total of 0 goals in 5 games during my spell at Norwich City.
Oh.
Yes, Sarah.
Is it Kane?
It is Kane.
Yes!
Correct.
So there's a brilliant piece on The Athletic about Harry Kane's 5 games at Norwich City. 5,000 words. I tell you what, that's awesome. It's so good. Carry on.
Okay, next one. Next player. I made my professional debut for a Premier League club at the age of 18. I have won the Barry Butler Trophy.
Ooh.
Oh, jeez.
I played a total of 1 minute at a World Cup, but I was responsible for my team reaching the semi-finals of that competition.
Oh, Tim Krul.
Yes, Steve. Correct. Well done.
Oh, well done.
Nice. Well done.
God, that's a great get. Oh, one apiece.
One apiece.
One across the board. Got 2 questions left, and I have no tiebreaker. So if we draw, hey. Okay, next one. I also have a Barry Butler Trophy to my name during my 1 full season at Norwich City.
Madders.
Yes, Steve. Great way. Well done. Okay, there's pressure on Sarah and Michael now. Okay, this is the easiest one as well. I made almost 1,000 appearances over the course of my illustrious career, including 67 caps for my country. I was an inaugural member of Norwich City's Hall of Fame and was awarded an MBE during my time at the club.
Oh, I missed the start of the first question, so...
It was
Martin Peters.
Yeah.
Correct, Michael.
Or
well
Ian
done.
Peters.
Ian Peters.
Ian Peters.
Absolutely. Well, I thought that quiz would take a while, but you've all just steamed through it. Congratulations.
Well, the problem is not many Norwich players have played at a World Cup.
This
It's
is
a
the
limited
thing.
pool.
This is the thing. But
It's
well.
you know what? It's still a
Well
wonderful
done.
quiz, Ryan. Good work.
Great quiz,
And
Ryan.
Mesa even got one right after being up for like however many hours.
In fairness, I'm surprised you haven't fallen asleep yet, to be honest. So there we go.
It's the amazing chat, guys.
You said it's the most fun you've ever had, Michael.
Yeah, I did say that, didn't I? On a podcast. I hope I did clarify that, but maybe I didn't. I think I've gone through all the messages. Why not? I'm sure. Yeah. Brilliant, Ryan. Thank you for the quiz. Well, round of applause for Ryan. Well done, everyone. That's why you're our quiz master, Ryan. It will never change. Was some other. Let's go through the final messages and wrap these up. Neil Luther, do you think we are playing poorly as so many players are out of contract this summer? Pookie, Todd, Kenny McLean, Jordan Hugill, Kieran Dow,
Everyone.
a few others, Sam Byram.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it helps. And it does sound like some of the players themselves were a little bit surprised so many players were out of contract in the summer. So,
but then can the argument
there's a piece on that on the Athletic, by the way, as well.
Can the argument then not be, well, these players are playing for either their futures here or elsewhere,
Yeah.
so there's more incentive for them to.
Yes, that is always the argument, Ryan. You're right. Yeah, and I don't think it really has got much to do with that. One thing I forgot to mention, which was on my list, I don't think we mentioned it, did we? On my list for things we're not going to talk about. Paul Freycast, how long before we see Attanasios cash? Of course, how have we not? I don't know. It was on my list, and we obviously just got so involved in all the other stuff we didn't mention it. But yeah, Mark Attanasio and his son Mike and their respective wives have all been in Norwich over the past few days. They were at the AGM on Thursday evening, which was interesting, and they were at the game on Saturday. They have done some media. Mark Attanasio has spoken with Phil Daly of BBC Radio Norfolk, so go and give that a listen. And also both Mark and Mike Attanasio have done the Talk Norwich City podcast and video like this with Jack and Chris, which I managed to watch in full before I came on because I thought that was important, and it's really interesting. It's good work, and if you are interested in what they have to say, then you should go and listen to it and watch as well. There is obviously a piece on Mark Attanasio on the Athletic, on, and I don't think there's much in that contradicts anything that's coming out at the moment. I think Mark is a clever man, and I think he's managing to not let on too much. He's answering things without really giving us proper detail. And there's obviously a lot of things that they want to help out with in the club, and it's really interesting. Norwich have already got £10 million of his money. It's just not very clear yet where that is going. I'm sure it'll all become clear at some point, and maybe there will be more. But I guess it's a work in progress, isn't it? Sarah, what do you think about the whole situation? And did you see the interview as well?
I've nearly reached the end, so I've nearly got to the end of it. I thought they came across really well. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that develops over time, what's going to happen when they get more difficult questions, perhaps over time, when people start really digging into what they're doing, how involved they become. But from what he's saying and how the two of them come across, and I thought it was quite interesting, it was the two of them who spoke with Jack and Chris, actually. I thought they were, they're sports fans. They seem quite embedded in the club already. They seem very interested in how things are operating. They're quite interested in the nest and the facilities. I think they even mentioned the soccer ball. Got to get it in again. But I think it's going to be an interesting time. I don't think any of us know where this is going to really end or where that journey will take us. But I didn't sort of watch that video and think, why are these guys investing in my club? I watched it and thought, this is interesting that these guys want to invest in my club. What's this going to do?
I think I've had that. I felt like I've had that view since it all started coming to my conscious that there's a lot to play. There's the agreement of the shares that's obviously in place in terms of the 7 years, the repayment if they don't turn it into shares, and that financial issue, which again, no one's really given an opinion on that, and they're obviously trying to just sort of say, it'll be all right one way or another, which is fine. but there is obviously there's no agreements in place as to what really happens as the next step, from what I can tell. And maybe there are, and they're really secret, and no one's saying it. But it does seem a little bit more like fluid and just this involvement, and let's see what happens. And but there is obviously an intention, I think, for people to get more involved if they can. But for that to happen, it requires other people to be less involved, and then you're wondering if they do. So. As you say, I think we could be in for a very, one way or another, it's going to be a very interesting year, or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. And I think it would be naive to think that the situation the club is in won't play a part in that as well.
I like the fact that our rival podcast, well, they're not really rivals, but one of the other major Norwich City podcasts. But just, one of the other big Norwich respect.
Damn you, Jack and Chris.
Yeah.
You're starting a turf war, Steve.
I know. You're going to get me in trouble with everyone. It's just burning fire, and I'm sat here in the middle going, it's fine.
My point was going to be that they were talking to Mark Attanasios today, while for the first 5 minutes of this podcast, we were discussing what type of fish one of the panelists had for their dinner.
Come on.
I just love hey, you give the people what they want. Give the people what they want.
What I want before the end of the season, we need to get the Attanasios on this, and Steve can talk to them about fish for about 10 minutes, and we'll see how that goes.
Yes.
I'm not coming on. You can do that. I would add to the point again. I think this probably needs mentioning as well, that I do agree with you, Sarah. I thought they did come across very well on the TNC pod with the boys, and Jack and Chris did a good job with it as well. And I do find it really interesting in what they can offer and could make a difference too. I'm really interested to find out what that is and how they will go about it. And as someone who's been around the football club since whenever 1980 blah, that's a very interesting dynamic. And so good on them. We'll see how that all develops. I suppose, won't we? That'll be good. Any more? Well, Ted Silwood. In future, the Women's World Cup should be awarded at the same time as the men's, to the same country. Not allowed to get one without the other. I like that idea. It's a good idea.
Good point about that.
Yeah. Neil Luther, do you even know? I've added even where Cameroon is on the map, Michael. Well, it's in Africa, isn't it?
Is there an athletic piece about that?
What about where they are?
About where Cameroon is on the map?
Or the fact that my search for where it is. My search for Cameroon. Oh, by the way, my colleague
Michael's road trip to Cameroon. That would be great.
That would be good.
That's a BBC Two series in the making.
My colleagues Nick Miller and Laurie Whitwell are currently in a car traveling from London to Qatar. Via planes, trains, and all. They're doing the lot, but they are going from one to the other. I think as soon as they get there, they'll get there before the World Cup kicks off, and then they're going to travel home. So I don't think they're going to see any football, but they're going to have one hell of a trip, and they are having one hell of a trip. So without wishing to flog the dead horse too much, there's loads of good stuff about their road trip on the Athletic, obviously. I think we might well be done here, surely. What else have we got? Neil Luther, firefighting Bailey. Don't even know what it means, but it's great.
Putting out the fires that I'm starting, I think. That's
that's true. Neil, there's too many fires. I'm just burning. Has the £10 million not gone to Michael Fulger? No. So this will be clarified. I mean, it's in the piece in the Athletic, but I will also clarify it for you here. So Michael Fulger sold his shares, his stake in the club, which are ordinary shares, to Mark Attanasios and his backers, whoever they are. He sold them for, I believe, around 3 million quid. But there are obviously questions then over how much that prices each individual share at and whatever, blah, blah, blah. So that's gone to Michael Fulger, roughly about that much, I think. And then he has invested, then he has given basically the club £10 million. So Norwich wouldn't have got any money from that. That would have just been 3 million quid to Michael Fulger. Fulger gives Attanasios shares. Done. It's actually got nothing to do with the football club, hilariously. But as part of it, because Michael Fulger wanted the club to benefit and the club wanted to be involved in the process, there is also an agreement that Mark Attanasios has given the club a £10 million. It's kind of effectively a loan because it buys a set of shares that aren't shares that contribute to the stake in the club. They're just like vouchers, really. And at the end of 7 years, those vouchers either get cashed in for actual shares that would then dilute other shareholdings and give Mark Attanasio and his people more shares, or Norwich have to give him the 10 million quid back plus a load of interest that's been rolled up over the course of 7 years, I think to the tune of another 6-7 million quid. But again, the details are in the piece. So that's one of the debating points, really, is that in 7 years' time, it's either going to have cost Norwich 17 million quid. Bearing in mind, if they don't end up back in the Premier League between now and then, that is probably more than a whole year of season ticket revenue, because I think that's about 10-11 million quid. So maybe roughly, I'm making figures up here from past knowledge, but it's a lot of money. Or he's going to have a really big chunk of the club, and then it becomes debatable, whatever happens, blah, blah, blah. So no, it's the short answer. The 10 million quid has gone to the club, and they have to decide what they want to do with it. But they also have to bear in mind that in 7 years' time, they might have to give that money back plus interest. Is that all right, Sarah? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, this has been a remarkably productive question as a podcast. Josh Shreves, still here, Joshua. Where's the Leroy Fair question?
What would be the question there? Or like, what would be the clue? Didn't
Dutchman
he
headed home?
Didn't he keep a horse in like a flat upstairs in his house when he was in Holland or something like that? That would be a first one.
Let's hope that's what it was. Yeah, let's definitely hope that is what it was.
Hopefully somebody can verify that, because otherwise
definitely a horse. Robert Marsh, Jared Bowen should have gone to the World Cup too, but not obviously ahead of Ivan Toney. Also, he hasn't been so good this year, has he? I wouldn't have said. Dan Greengrass, any signings in January? No, there's no money unless they sell someone, and then they will spend less money than they sell the player for.
Josh, when he scores that hat trick.
So enjoy. Yeah, to be honest, indeed. And Sam Cornell. How's Sam? You guys managing to get any downtime during the World Cup? Anyone? So Steve, will you get some downtime during the World Cup?
I mean, as far as I literally just do this podcast and send some tweets. I mean, I do have a job.
You really should get a job. This doesn't pay you anything.
This is all I have. It's all I have. Yeah, so I mean, as far as downtime goes for me, I just won't be doing this on Mondays. But
so you've got Mondays free. Monday evenings are free.
Monday
You'll
evenings.
be celebrating England's first win next Monday, surely.
Is that when they're playing? Hang on, let me check my
1-0 win over Iran.
Yep, 1-0 win over Iran.
Who are they playing? Iran. Yeah.
1 o'clock, isn't it?
Ivan Toney hat trick. Oh no. Obviously not. Right, that's good. Ryan, are you getting any work? Are you going back to Jurassic Park, I suppose?
I am, yeah. I'm working at the park over this. It's the busiest time of year you see at the park, so those dinosaurs won't dinosaur themselves.
Sarah, how about you?
Well, the women's games are carrying on, right?
Exactly, right. Too true.
So there's still women's football happening.
So
no downtime, really. But yeah, at least no sort of traffic jams on the A11 on the way to Carrow Road. So that's stopped for a few weeks.
Well, I hope you have a good time. Anyway, I have not got 4 weeks off. I know that much. We're doing loads of World Cup stuff at the Athletic, and I am doing some
all
of
it on Cameroon.
Yeah, I am doing some of the stuff. Very small amount of stuff, but enough to keep me probably busy enough over 4 weeks to not have had a break.
Your goal over the break, Michael, is to try and get Seb Basong mentioned as many times as you can throughout the 4 weeks.
On the Athletic, or just where? Where do I mention him?
Oh, on the Athletic, yeah, for sure.
Right. Okay. Yes. Right.
Yeah, that's a good challenge.
I'll just Seb Basong. Yes, I will do that. That's a yes. Maybe that's all I'm going to have. Here we go. Robert Marsh he's off to watch Bromley rather than watching the World Cup. You know what? Go it. There's still loads of local football going on and under the levels.
Yeah.
So do it. It's very enjoyable.
Yeah, I feel like it's worth saying, isn't it, that as you said, women's football, non-league football still going on. Support your local teams. Grassroots is where it all is.
And we should send best wishes to Alex at Bath FC, who had that horrific accident in their game against Dulwich Hamlet.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Best wishes.
Well, we're talking of non-league, yeah.
Right, last message. Neil Luther, do you work for The Athletic, Michael? You
I'm
never
not sure
know.
he does.
There's
Yes,
a
I
piece on
do.
that on The Athletic, actually.
when I got the job, I wrote a piece. It's not the local media. It's not. It's The Athletic. It's not Archant. It's The Athletic. So just
What a
you know.
twist that would be if you didn't work for them after all. That would
It's
be
all a
the
ruse.
perfect way to end this pod, wouldn't it?
They haven't paid me in 3 years, but I just wanted to sustain it. The illusion. Right, I think quite literally there is nothing else to say on this. That is it for another On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast, whose idea of warm weather at the end of this month is a tamper with the central heating. If you're yet to do so, I thought that was good.
That's good.
That is good.
Nice.
Too strong script bits, I thought, today.
Go out with a bang.
You made me raise my game. Of course, I'm undoing it all now by talking about it. If you're yet to do so, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast via your podcast player of choice. The pod is also free for everyone on your usual player, and we are streaming the recording of the podcast live in video form on my social media channels. So have a search, and you will almost certainly find them, I would like to think. Ratings and reviews, wherever prompted, are always hugely appreciated. And if you want to get in touch with the podcast and ask any questions or topic proposals, or maybe get agreement to do something, I'm very easy. But if you do want to get in touch, then sling me a direct message on Twitter. The handle is @Michael J. Bailey. As for this evening, for just the most wonderful podcast, I'd like to say a huge thank you to our guests this evening. They are Sarah Greaves. Thank you so much for joining us, Sarah. Go get some sleep.
Yep, brilliant. Can't wait.
It's literally just going to keel over and sleep. Good stuff. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us. Ryan, the quiz was wonderful. You are wonderful. Thank you so much as always.
Thank you very much. Sorry for getting you in trouble with the AGM stuff.
Oh, no, I'm already in trouble. It's fine. I shouldn't turn up to these things. I should know my place. Steve, always a pleasure. Let's do it again. The other side of the World Cup break.
I hope so. I'll miss it terribly. And sorry for getting you in even more trouble with the AGM stuff.
There is.
I look forward to seeing your Cameroon work, though. That's
Me too.
So do I.
Back now, I think.
Do you have a spreadsheet for Cameroon, Steve?
We'll talk. Let's talk.
Hey, let's take it offline.
Let's take that offline.
Right. That's wonderful. I love these guys. I love you all. Thank you all much for watching. We'll be back in December, either before or after the trip to Swansea, when we figure it out, for another edition of the On the Ball Norwich City podcast. Until then, and maybe this goes specifically for me, never mind the danger. Well, there we go. We are still live, but I just want to say thanks, everyone. We've been going an hour and a half, so that could potentially be a record. I'm sorry, everyone, especially to you, Sarah. This is
A
like...
small person nearly came in. I heard the door handle go.
Yeah.
Like the kids were like, "Oh, she said 9:15." So
I've got... did she? Did I? Sorry. I think I say 9 o'clock every week. I have no idea if my boys are asleep.
they could just be crying outside
They're downstairs watching telly.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, they're watching A Bridge Too Far or the Black Panther or Black Panther. I don't think there's the on it. I've sounded very old man there. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. It was great fun, wasn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not in too much trouble after all that. Thanks everyone. Thanks guys, and we will see you in December. I don't know when, but it'll be great. So we're signing off. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Everyone wave. That's the way. Wave.
Bye.
Bye.